Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new early movie review, and today we are discussing a new action comedy by the name of Free Guy, which I got a chance to check out early in theaters courtesy of 20th Century Studios. Really excited to share my thoughts with you all and let you know if it's worth checking out in this spoiler-free review. Before we break it all down, do me a favor and check me out on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert from when I drop new content. If you all enjoyed this spoiler-free review of Free Guy, well, make sure to like the video and share the video. It helps out the channel a lot, but also appreciate the support. And in the comments, let's discuss Free Guy. Were you excited for this film? Once you've seen it in theaters, what did you think about it? Did you have a fun time? Did you have a good laugh? Did you enjoy the characters, the narrative, the cameos, or were you disappointed by this film? And since we're talking Ryan Reynolds, taking out Deadpool, because that's my favorite performance, but what is your favorite Ryan Reynolds performance? Let's discuss it all in the comments below. So I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't overly excited to see Free Guy. The trailers were just okay. It was delayed multiple times, but here we are discussing this film. And let's talk about the film a little bit in regards to the behind the scenes. Now, Free Guy was a film that went through the ringer. It was delayed, I want to say 3 times. It was one of the only films that continued its production, moving from Fox over to Disney, and also one of the first films to go under the 20th Century Studios banner. And speaking of Disney, you can tell that Disney pumped some money in this film, not just from a production standpoint, but from a licensing standpoint. The music in this film was very surprising. I know it wasn't cheap. The IPs that were referenced to in this movie and the cameos. Listen, Disney money runs long, and they definitely pumped some money into this film. But let's talk about this movie. Starting off with my positives. Now, pardon my French, I will be using the F word here, but this film was fun, guys. I really did have a fun time with this film. I know fun gets thrown around a lot when it comes to describing action comedies, but I did have a fun time with it. But it did take a minute to kind of settle in and get used to the narrative and the comedy and the tone within the film. But once I settled in, I really did have a fun ride with this. But let's start off by talking about the man behind the camera, the director of this film, Shawn Levy, who I'm a big fan of. He is Mr. Family-friendly action guy. You look at his filmography, and he works on projects such as Cheaper by the Dozen, Night at the Museum franchise, Real Steel, and also a very great producer, whether it be Arrival or my favorite Netflix show, Stranger Things. And when it comes to Shawn Levy, he definitely knows how to play in the arena of family fun action while adding in some adult humor. And I felt like he definitely had a mix on adding his own sensibilities as a director, but also taking inspiration from projects like A Wreck-It Ralph meets Ready Player One in the skin of a Fortnite game come to life. So I really did enjoy his direction in this film. And just a quick side note, I know Kevin Feige mentioned that Deadpool 3 will be rated R, but if they change their mind and they make it PG-13, which I really hope they don't do, but if they do, based on Shawn Levy's filmography in this film, I think he would be a perfect fit to direct a Deadpool 3. But let's transition and talk about the performances, starting off with the supporting cast, which I really enjoyed. I thought they all kind of played a good role, whether it was a bigger supporting role or a small supporting role. But I think of Lil Rel as Buddy. I really enjoyed his character. Taika Waititi as Antoine, the villain of the film. I had a fun time with him. And also Joel Keery, who worked on Stranger Things with Shawn Levy. I thought him as Keys was a really interesting character. So I thought all the supporting cast really brought their A game in this film. And you could tell that everyone was just having fun in their roles. But speaking of fun and speaking of great, let's talk about the leads of this film, who I thought were fantastic. Starting off with Ryan Reynolds, who, I'm not going to lie, no disrespect to Mr. Ryan Reynolds, I find it hard to say that he has a lot of range as an actor, but that's no fault to him, because I think if you're good at something, continue to do it. And he knows his role and he plays it well, and I thought that he was great in this role. It's an amalgamation of all the last 10 to 15 roles you've seen him in, but I just always find myself rooting for Ryan Reynolds, whether it be in comedies or action, and I really enjoyed his character as Guy in this film. Now, Guy is someone who's only known Free City as this NPC character and lives in like this bubble. He's always doing the same thing over and over again until he comes across our other lead character, Millie, who really opens up his world, and really seeing his character take control of his life was a really solid character arc in this film. So I really enjoyed Guy, but more importantly, I enjoyed Ryan Reynolds in this film. But for me personally, the MVP, the scene stealer of this film was Jodie Comer, who I'm a big fan of Jodie. I think she's fantastic in Killing Eve, and I really hope this is one of those roles that really puts her on the map. Yes, she was in Rise of Skywalker. She's going to be in the Ridley Scott Scott film later this year, Duel, but I really want to see her more in action comedies because she was fantastic in this movie. I thought that she not only has proven in her career that she can kick ass, but she's also proven that she has a good sense of humor. She's so charming. She has great screen presence, and I really just find it so easy to like her characters, especially Millie in this film, a character that has a very interesting story that starts off in the narrative of revenge, but then seeing her kind of mix that in with a love story and then mixing in other things and her comedic beats in this film and her chemistry with Ryan Reynolds, I thought she was great, and I really enjoyed her character, and I thought that she was the best character for me in this film. But kind of lastly, one of the things I really wanted to pinpoint on was there's a lot of good themes in this film. I gotta say, whether it be breaking the norms of your day-to-day routine or being the best version of yourself and not living in the matrix and really kind of shining through, well, those themes to me really kind of shine through in this film. And also too, I gotta mention the cameos. I won't say who they are, but there's a lot of cameos in this movie, but there were two that got a reaction from my press screening. One that was really like, sentimental and was great to see, but then there was another one towards the third act of the film that got me so happy. I had such a big smile on my face with a particular cameo, and again, when you all see the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. But let's transition over to my criticism. Now, I mentioned that I had fun with the film. I appreciate the themes in the film, but the overall story was a bit lacking for me personally, mainly because we've seen it before. I mentioned Wreck-It Ralph and Ready Player One and The Matrix and, Fortnite type of skin on the film. But I felt like the Millie storyline involving keys and the plot and how that connects to Taika Waititi's character, it wasn't all that interesting to me. Whenever we went from Free City and played in the real world narrative, that story to me was it was the weakest element of the film. Necessarily the love story that kind of unfolds in the film, I really didn't care for it. And I won't get into it that much, but those particular story beats didn't work for me. And I mentioned that it took a little bit to kind of settle into the tone, the comedy, and it was a bit clunky at the beginning because it was like, okay, are we PG-13? Are we R? Are we more kid-friendly? So it took a little bit to kind of get a rhythm for the film. And also, once we get into like the second half of the film, it kind of felt a little bit of repetitive nature in the second half of the narrative. And this is a very minor criticism that I have here in my notes. There are some cameos, and I won't say who they are in regards to the celebrities, but there are some YouTube influencers, some Twitchers that are in this film, and to me, you can tell that their profession isn't acting. Now, that isn't a slight or a diss at them. I think it's so cool. Shout out to them for having the opportunity, but some of those YouTubers were not the best actors in this film. But lastly, I want to talk about, this is very subjective, obviously, right? When it comes to the comedy, I would say 50-50. When it hit, it hit. It was funny. I had a good time with it. But when the comedy didn't work for me personally, it landed flat, really flat. And I think that kind of goes to me being a fan of Ryan Reynolds, but sometimes the jokes run a little bit too long. Sometimes the Taika Waititi character wasn't all that funny. And there was some moments that I found it weird when they threw in some social commentary that felt a bit forced in the film. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. Not all the comedy work, and some of the social commentary thrown in the film to me just felt a little bit forced in my opinion. So before I get into my overall thoughts on my score, if you stuck around so far to this video, if you haven't already, just a friendly reminder to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. With all that being said, overall, for a film that I wasn't all that too excited for, I had very little expectations for, I really ended up enjoying this end of the summer action comedy. The direction was solid. I enjoyed the performances. I loved the fun cameos, and I appreciate the message that the film had to say. Sure, not all the jokes landed and not all the plots worked out at the end of the day, but for me, I'm gonna give this film, Free Guy, a solid 3.5 out of 5. And I would say, if you want to take your family, I would say 13 and higher, because there are some crude jokes, there are some mature jokes in this film, some swear words, but I would say this is a fun end of the summer action comedy, and I recommend you all check it out. And when you do, let me know what you all thought of Free Guy, your pros, your cons. You don't have to spoil the cameos, but let me know in the comments. Put spoiler, let me know what was your favorite cameo in the film. Or again, if you were disappointed, let's discuss it all in the comment section. Again, if you stuck around to the end of the video, I appreciate every single one of you all. Again, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Hope you're staying safe. We'll see you in the next video.